All right, welcome back. Matt Davio here with Leigh Jones. Leigh is, you can follow Leigh on Twitter at Copper, as in the metal, St. Louis, but the abbreviated is Copper STL. So you are there in the middle of the country, St. Louis.
Downtown St. Louis.
That's the Midwest as far as I'm concerned. I grew up in Detroit, and I consider the Midwest really Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota. So you're definitely in the Midwest.
If anything colder than North Carolina is considered cold to me, so I don't care where it is. So
And
I don't do cold, and I'm learning.
And since you brought it up, you are not from St. Louis. You don't have a St. Louis accent.
Charlotte, North Carolina. And I try to lose it, but it just follows me. This accent follows me everywhere I go.
How long have you been in St. Louis?
About 2 years.
And what
About
brought
2 years.
What brought you there?
Just a little bit of business. I have worked as a corporate consultant, full-time trader now, but, in the early days, I was still consulting. So finishing up some projects.
Cool.
I've traveled the 48 weeks out of the year and had to learn how to trade like that for the last 10 years. So busy people can be traders, that's for sure.
What kind of consulting were you doing that you were, crafting your trading piece?
Okay, thank you for asking that. I do ISO 9000 and its derivatives, which is a quality management system. So I do aerospace, automotive, labs, hospitals.
Okay, so I can see how you, with all those, how you ended up in St. Louis. You got a lot of all those businesses. You got a lot of automotive. You got a lot of aero, and you have a lot of hospitals, obviously, with Jewish.
It worked great. I was right in the middle, and I could fly either direction, so it worked really well for me.
And were you working for a large company we're familiar with?
My company, so now you're familiar. Company. It was Leigh Jones Consulting, Isometrics, awesome. Isometrics US. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that was pretty. Is that still a pretty hot field? I know that was definitely hot in the mid '90s. Is it still booming? The whole
it is because now it absolutely because now I'm into healthcare. So I'm doing ISO in healthcare. I just took one of the first major hospitals ISO. It's a Baptist hospital, and consequently, let me just segue into this. They knew I was a trader.
Right.
So we began setting up classes for those medical professionals because their 401s were tanking over the last year. So they have learned how to trade. There's about 400 of those guys.
Really?
Learning how to trade. Isn't that something?
Are they doctors, nurses, clinicians, all walks of life?
All of the above. All of the above. Learning how to read charts and, if it's 401, great. If they want to do position trading, swing trading, but they are learning. I don't usually let people go live for about 6 months to a year.
That's smart.
I like for them to play with, the fake money. But, some of them are live now, and they're ready to go.
Okay, so you come from the quality side. How did you get into this crazy business of trading, investing? Were you always interested in the markets as a young girl? Was it something
I was interested in business because I've had about 16 companies, okay? But as I started working with my customers, I'm dealing with a lot of suppliers with Cat, Deere, the Bell Helicopter, all these guys. And so I'm over on that manufacturing side. That kind of gave me my lead into the market, starting to watch their stocks and that type of thing. So when I began to trade, we didn't do online trading. We had to call our broker. You remember those days? Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way I learned too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Commissions were extremely high. So once we were able to do this online, I just realized this was it.
Yeah.
So learned how to set the alerts, set the triggers, and do this thing.
What did you study in? Did you go to college?
Yes.
What did you study?
I have a degree in English, manufacturing management. I have 5 degrees. Don't make me name them all.
I'm
and all the certificates to go with it.
I'm curious. What have you studied? English?
I have studied English, business, manufacturing management, marketing, and healthcare management.
Okay, that's a lot. How do you keep up? How do you keep up with it all?
Oh, because I don't sleep much.
But
we don't have time to sleep.
You look great. You look like you get enough sleep.
Well, thank you. It's because it's dark in here, so I usually look better in the dark. Usually.
Well, it's dark here, and I sure don't look like you do. So you got to be doing.
I can give you a makeover. Trust me, we can get that done.
I don't know. It's a lot of work.
Well, I can do miracles. But honestly, I'm one of these high energy people. So I love to draw, paint, play instruments. So there's just too much to do to sleep.
Yeah.
At one point, I was an idiot. I thought I could train myself to stay awake one night a week. so I could stay up all night and do things. And so the more I started working in hospitals, the more I realized that was not a smart move. So we do try to get some sleep each night.
So, do you remember what your first trade was, or first investment that you bought?
I do. John Deere, D-E, Deere.
And when was that? What time? Give us some time frames.
Oh gosh, well I've been trading 10 years.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to tell you, because I told you I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
Was it a trade or was it an investment? I'm curious. It
was an investment. I didn't know trading existed.
Okay, so 1999, you're buying John Deere, and how does that work out? How does that work out?
It did great. It did great. And then later on, a couple of years later, Home Depot, bless their hearts, they tanked, and we jumped in there and bought some of that and did really well. At the time, my daughter was in the 3rd grade.
Okay.
She had enough money to buy 1 share of Home Depot. Mm-hmm. So she jumped in there and bought hers, and off we went. So after that, I started really realizing there was something to do. So I did take some education. I flew into certain cities and took, a week-long class with, I took everything from options to Forex. And still take classes, because if I can get one little nugget to take me further, that's great. I do teach, but I trade anything that moves, from options to Forex. I don't enjoy futures. People tell me, why do you not trade that? I don't like talking about it. I follow it, but I'd rather talk about other things than, crude, and, I follow it. I trade it another way. I may trade the refineries or something, but...
So you trade stocks, and their underlying options is what you primarily focus on.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And how do would you consider yourself a fundamental trader, technical trader? How do you define the way you behave in the market?
Okay. I'm a fundamental trader, technical trader, and a sentimental trader. Okay. So I trade all 3. It depends on my strategy. If it's intermediate or long term, I'm more into the fundamentals. If I'm trading that chart, I don't care if it's a goat. If it has a ticker symbol, I'm going to trade it right then, and I'm out. Right. So that's more or less the charts, and I'm sure you understand. If you had a ticker symbol, I'd trade you. So it's,
you'd probably
along with that makeover, Matt, we'll just give you a ticker symbol. How's that? Right. But, I'm a very aggressive day trader. And people always ask, how many trades are you in and out? And I'm probably like you. I'm not going to tell you, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, but how many, I'm not asking for a number of trades, but how many how many names will you trade in a day? What's a typical day for Leigh?
10.
10 round trips in and out.
Not round trips, but 10 tickers.
Okay.
I may trade that same one 3 to 5 times.
Gotcha.
Moving, if it's moving. I usually hold over 100 positions. Stock guy tells me I'm like a hedge fund.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But each strategy is different, so I have different accounts for each strategy.
So do you have a long-term account, short-term account?
I do. All of the above.
Okay. So give us a little idea of what your day looks like when you come in for a trading day.
Okay, well, I do my watch list in the evening, and I know people spend hours doing their watch list, but I spend about 30 minutes.
Okay.
I have this down to a science. If you're familiar with Six Sigma or ISO with what I do, it's all about trending. Right. And because I'm a math person, I have my formula, and I can get that done in about 30 minutes, check my news, check whatever I need, and I'm ready to go. And then because I'm on Central Time, obviously I have to get up a little bit early, such as yourself, because of the market. If I'm trading Forex, I may have been up late. And so once I get my face on, I'm ready to get in there and see what we can do. I trade the open very, very aggressively. Matter of fact, those people that follow me on Twitter, I call it a vitamin. I put vitamins out each day because we all need our one a day.
Yep.
And usually we can trade something that's got volatility at the open. So I always trade that and the close. And during the day, I'm looking for bounces.
So, again, your preparation takes you 30 minutes. Do you start with a list of stocks based on a criteria that helps you to whittle down to that number that allows you to get to that 30 minutes of work?
Absolutely. So I built scans. Well, I trade candles and chart patterns. Okay, so I'm looking for high probabilities. And I have, over the years, trended what works for me. Okay. So I literally have it down to a checklist. If A, B, C, and D. If D doesn't fit in the criteria, there's no trade.
Okay.
I don't make a trade. I don't chase them. In the early days, we all chase trades.
Well, this is where I will go to my grave, and part of the reason why I call myself Miss Trade is because I want to trade like a woman with diligence and patience and persistence, and I mean this in all sincerity, because I think women are more rational when it comes to financial decision making. I haven't known a ton of female traders in my life, but the ones that I've known or have tried to educate are much quicker, much better learners than the male counterpart, because of most women lack a lot of that three-letter evil word, which is spelled EGO. And would you agree with that? I mean, what have you?
I do agree with that. I do. But given what I do, I'm primarily working with engineers, primarily quality engineers, everything from mechanical and these are primarily men.
Right.
And so, I walk in with a fake blonde and they're like, oh my goodness, you're our auditor? Yeah, let's get busy. But it's still that numbers thing.
Yeah.
And once I got my numbers down and got my checklist, because I teach a lot of auditors with what I do with ISO and aerospace, that type thing, again, A, B, C, and D. And once I built the checklist, it was so easy to migrate that over to trading.
Right.
So many people, again, especially new traders, try their best to make that trade. They try to make this look the way they want it. Right. And there's that ego again. I've picked this ticker. I think this company's great. I try to pride myself on being able to trade any chart. Sometimes you just need to still.
Sometimes there's no trade, and that's okay. Yeah. I mean, no trade is a trade. Yeah.
Unless you're going to now I see now with the mistrade, we've got to get you the makeover. If you want to do that side, we can. I'm telling you, Matt, we can do the makeover. That might be another episode coming up.
Dennis Rodman tried it, and he stayed straight. Whatever works, I'll give it a shot.
I think so. If it helps your trading, you'll do anything, right?
It might help me put me into that spirit. I'm open-minded.
Get you into that zone.
But I think that's the thing about trading, and you brought up a good point here, is you need to be open-minded. You need to have less ego. You need to put your bullish or your bearish macro bent aside when you're trading.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that, but I have to tell you one thing I think the men are better with some of the statistics part. And I don't mean that as any disrespect to women, but some of them look at this and their eyes glaze over. And because the man can just sit there and just, mechanically inclined. And so once I break that down into segments, then it's not so hard for the women. But a lot of them have a tendency to just toss this right over to the husband. Say, here, you do it. And I try to teach them both. I don't want them to have the same accounts, especially when they're learning, because their styles will be different.
Sure.
But I have to tell you, I think the men are very good with the numbers. Would you agree?
Yes, yeah. Simple statistics and doing quick math. I can see that, but I think from still when you get down to the root of how do I decide what my trade is going to be, I think women can compartmentalize much quicker and better than men can, and they don't try to. Well, if it's got all these things, but not the one. So I'm just going to take the three.
That's true.
So
this market's crazy.
Go ahead.
Excuse me? No, go ahead.
Can you give me a flavor of what types of things you look at to come up with trades?
My favorite are the bottom bounces. So even during the day, I'm looking for that low. Now I do short, and I do spreads and butterflies and condors and all of that. We won't go into that. Most people are not ready to trade those. But because, my tendency is to look for the quick day trade, I'm obviously looking for the bounce. And for example, let me just, depending on like REM. All right, let's talk about REM right now. REM brings some beautiful trades both ways, whether you're going to short, do your long positions or whatever. So I play a lot off of moving averages. And again, I am straight with those candles. I watch the candles all the way down to the 1 minute, 3 minute, 10 minute, 15. And I'm watching that in conjunction with fib numbers, both. I do fibs both horizontal and vertically.
Yep.
And run my math. And it's just down to a science. It either works or it doesn't, and I'm on to the next trade.
So you incorporate time and price into your Fibonacci. Talk about that a little bit, because most people probably haven't thought about that. And I do cycles also, so I'm curious how you use them.
Well, without getting too technical, and just again, because I'm assuming that most people have some market background, you know, obviously I will pull those time fractals, again, depending on the strategy. If I'm doing a swing trade, and I'm expecting to be in that trade a day to a week, then obviously I'm looking at that daily chart. But
Right.
if I'm if I'm trading the day, I've zeroed in on those fractals. I'm down to that 1 minute
Right.
and 3 minute, using that 10 minute with direction.
Yep.
So I can just, you know, confirm it and I'm in and out. So, you know, a trader's always going to have a miss.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just part of trading.
Also
But
part of my name is trade. Absolutely.
There you go. There you go. But honestly, once you can minimize that, because I work in risk management, again, this was so easy to build a formula. Here's your risk management trade.
So talk about that. You're talking about some key areas, again, here for all traders. Risk management, you know, how do you define? You've got a lot of positions on, 100 positions. You know, as you said, 10 names could be intraday. How do you manage all of that? What tools does Leigh Jones use to manage that risk? Because that's a lot of action going on.
It is. And I use advanced orders. I use many alerts, which help me.
By advanced orders, you mean you've bought something and you have a sell stop in and a sell profit.
Yeah, and at the open, I use one triggers other, OTO, or one triggers two, because some of those I don't even touch. By the time 20 minutes after the open, I've probably already bought and sold.
Yeah, so
several positions.
So again, you're coming in based on the homework that you've done in the night, and you say, I want to buy here, sell here, buy here, sell here. So you've got everything kind of segmented off, which I think is a fantastic, and really the only way you can truly manage that number of positions. So I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely. And so the ones in the intermediate and long-term accounts,
right.
Obviously those are set, ready to go. I change those around quite frequently because maybe it's just me, but because I wanted to be a market maker, you know, I studied that a little bit more, and I try to move those around so that I keep them guessing a little bit.
Right.
You know the theory behind that, but I do, for the most part, I have everything down on a spreadsheet. It goes with me, so that if I'm not able to get to my computer and I get an alert on my cell that something has happened, either with volume or whatever, I can go make an adjustment as I need to. And that's pretty much how I teach people when they start out. If we can build those habits early on, it's not hard to manage many positions. It's hard to go back and build those foundations.
Right.
A lot of people don't have the foundation.
Yeah. So what tools do you think are important for all levels of traders that you utilize every day? I mean, what kinds of things could you not survive with as a trader?
Streaming charts, number one. And surprisingly, because I'm on the Twitter so much, I have more people, I didn't realize, are using what they consider real-time charts when they're working on a 20-minute delay.
Right.
It's worth it. Pay the money if you have to.
Pay the $30 a month to get whatever service it is.
There you go. Well, and I have a broker that if I literally have $9 in that account, and I have free streaming quotes all the time. Their commissions are high, so I don't use them all the time, but I've kept that account open and I use their tools every day. I definitely need my candles. I need to be able to see those charts and be able to pull my trend lines, my support, and my resistance. Once I've got those, I'm ready to go.
So price, candles, support, and resistance, and that's pretty much all you need.
And volume. If I don't have volume, I don't trade. I know a lot of people trade low volume stocks, and I don't have the patience for it. It's just me.
I'm a liquidity guy also, so I need volume. I agree. I'm not going to trade a small cap stock trading 30,000 shares a day. I'm curious, in part of your screens, do you say, for example, market cap of 500 million and 500,000 shares average a day, something like that?
Correct. Yeah. I won't touch it unless it's over 500,000, with the potential to go to 1 million.
Right.
And I rarely day trade several times anything under 1 million. I need enough volatility and volume liquidity to move those prices for me. But on occasion, when I'm doing the breakouts, and again, I'm looking at things 3 and 4 days before other traders. My object is to get in 3 or 4 days before the next trader.
Okay.
Okay? So while they're trading crossover with moving averages, I've beat them in that trade by 3 or 4 days. So I have certain little signals that I'm looking for to go ahead and alert me. And the minute I see that alert, I'll go ahead and at least scale in, maybe a quarter or half a position, and then load it on once I get a full confirmation, because I can back out very quickly.
Right.
You know, if I see that it's not going to materialize for me. But I like that competitive edge. I'm very competitive. Like getting in there before everybody else.
So you will scale into a position, will 2 or 3 legs, 4 legs sometimes, and do you usually do equal increments? And do you know when you're getting into a trade that you're going to be scaling?
That's a good question. Sometimes I do equal, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I will do double, triple, quadruple. If I see, I know my trade when I go in. Let's just bring this down the scale. If I want to have 1,000 shares, and I start with 250. I may load another 250, or I may load 500 once I see those signals ready to go. And I load them with options.
Right.
Even though I day traded today, we day traded, what did we day trade today? JWN. We day traded Nordstrom's today.
Nordstrom's,
yeah. I have the long-term options in place, but I was also able to pull out a day trade with that. So I scaled in both, and, a couple hours later, I'm out with a nice hefty profit. The long-term position or the intermediate term for the next couple of days is still in place. So another advantage of having a couple of accounts.
Were you playing the retail because retail names were in play this morning with advertising?
Bingo. And I usually do that this time of year. I play Macy's right through earnings that just fell. Tell people I love to shop at the holidays. I shop Nordstrom, Macy's, Liz, all of them, but I just do it on Wall Street. That's the best way to shop.
I agree. And then you can use the real money that you make from that to your real shop.
There you go. Go shopping on Wall Street. Mm-hmm.
So, Leigh, what do you think separates you and makes you a success in the way you operate? What are your greatest attributes that others need to instill in themselves to become profitable in trading and investing? Because it's not an easy game.
It's not, and we know the statistics. What is it? 95% of the traders don't make a living at trading. Right. I think for the most part, people try. This is just my opinion for what it's worth. I think people have one strategy, and they try to make every stock or every chart fit that strategy. Mm-hmm. Whereas more of a professional trader there'll be many strategies, and we'll pull those out of our toolbox to fit the chart. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah. Well, and I think the point here also, Leigh, is I agree with you, and I think that multiple strategies take time. Much like Malcolm Gladwell says, it takes 10,000 hours of anything to become an expert. So, how does one put in that time? You're a good example. You were transitioning from other careers into trading full time. So how did you manage that, and how did you gain that time, at the wheel, so to speak, to become an expert?
I think being a type A helps. Most traders are that type A. Now, I don't gamble. People always ask me, I'll get off tangent here a minute. Do I go to the casinos? I do not. I don't do that. I go to look at the people, but I don't
speculate. I will go to Vegas to speculate. I don't gamble, though. And it's the same in markets.
Yeah, well, me either. Well, in St. Louis, I can just walk to the casinos, but I go to people watch, okay, or listen to music, but I'm not in there putting my money in the machines. But for the most part, as a consultant that traveled, I was in a different city sometimes every night. So I tease people and say I was in a different bed every night. That doesn't sound good, but we know what I meant. Right. But before I went to bed, I religiously checked my virtual account to make sure my strategy worked and set it up. So I'd spend that hour every night. I don't care if I got to the hotel at midnight. I would diligently do that because I knew down the road where I wanted to be. And I still spend time. You heard me say I still take classes.
Yeah.
As proficient as I feel I am, and I make a very nice living as a trader,
right.
I still feel like there's things I can learn.
Well,
so I would encourage people.
I think you're amiss if, I've been doing it for almost 20 years and I learn something all the time. I mean, it's part of the reason why I wanted to do this interview series is pick people's brains and hear how they do it, right. Because there's a lot of ways you and I could trade RIM, the same stock differently and both make money.
Absolutely. So. I think, though, a lot of traders just jump in, and I love Twitter. I love the fact that people can come on there. I can tell you that it has its downside. Because for me, for example, I had people following me, so I'd have new traders stepping in that would follow me, and because I was following ABC, they thought ABC trader was someone to follow, so I had new people following new people with live money, real money. So I was in hot water most of this summer, so, you almost have to stop following people, say, I love you, but send me an email, because it's not an endorsement, but I think people jump in. And as a trader, I'm going to tell you, I'll love you, but I'll take your money. If you don't know how to play, don't get on the field. I will take your money.
Yeah, I agree with you. You have to have that edge. If you don't have, that's where the ego is beneficial, and you have to have that when you step in. You better be confident that you're in this, as you said, as a job. It's not, this is not gambling. It is, there is somebody on the other side of every trade. So you better have fun.
There are. How do you feel about that phrase, legal gambling, when people talk about that with trading? I don't look at it as legal gambling.
Gambling itself is legal in Atlantic City on reservations and at casinos in Vegas. So, I think gambling is a poor term. I prefer speculate. I am a speculator. I speculate for a living, but I also understand the risks of said speculation. Gambling, to me, pulling a wheel is gambling. Betting on the lottery is gambling. You can play the markets as if they are gambling, which is, you know what? I'm going to throw a dart on the financial page, and whatever comes up, I'm buying or selling. That's gambling. But
that's ludicrous.
That's gambling.
How they do it.
But looking at REM and saying, hey, as long as this thing stays above $55, it's trading 58, and I'm going to buy it down to 55, and at 54 I'm out. That's putting a limit on what my losses will be, and my upside, as you said, in that scenario, are technically unlimited. But I think it's a misnomer. You have to give yourself an edge. The most difficult thing as individual, and I consider myself a small trader in the scheme of things. You and I don't have an edge versus the Goldman Sachs's, versus the government, for that matter. I don't get any memos. I don't get any memos that, like Bill Gross does, that bonds are going to be driven.
I get those. Do you not? You don't get those memos? I'll forward them to you.
But again, that's why I need your makeover. Coming back.
There you go. Okay, I'll forward those to you as well. Yeah, not a problem. But I agree. I like the strategy part of it. If I can put a thesis together. Yeah. Sometimes we've all done this too. You don't quite allow yourself enough time to let that thesis play out. You jump out of that trade and boom, there it goes. Right. And I call it ATAD. When people follow me, I write it in my blogs, ATAD. And that's not a ticker symbol. It means another trade, another day. And that's so, true. When I miss it, you'll see me tweet that out. ATAD. I got out too soon.
2 reasons. Mistrade. I want to trade like a woman with diligence, patience, persistence, and I have to my ego has to accept that I'm going to miss trades every single day. Absolutely.
There you go.
That is, I think that is the most dangerous part about trading. I mean, it's just like because you and I are so competitive. We're like, if only, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah. But at the same time, greed gets in there. Your trade's working, and I'll tell people is even though I feel like I'm a pretty decent trader, a small trader as you mentioned, but still a decent trader. I can't pick the top or the bottom, so I'm happy to walk away with profit. Right. I'm happy. Right. I don't try to hold on to these things and keep riding it up. If the play materializes, I'm out.
Exactly. And do you find yourself, I'm curious, on the exit of a profitable position, do you scale out also, kind of come out in quarters, 20%?
I do if that was my strategy. If it's a day trade, obviously no. If it's a short-term swing, no. But an intermediate swing and position trade or something, absolutely. Besides setting your risk limits, do you have targets on your trades? Absolutely. I know exactly where I'm headed with that. Okay. Exactly. Down to the penny sometimes. Really? To the penny sometimes, and I'll get tweets like, how in the world, because I'm usually within a couple of cents. But I think that comes with doing those numbers.
Okay. So is it a 1-to-1 relationship, 2-to-1? Will you risk more than you're making?
No. I dare say I'd never do that. You should put tightwad across my forehead.
Well, I will.
You know,
Sometimes I will take more risk than I think I will make on the upside. I'm just curious. You know
what? Now that you're saying that, you're probably right. When I'm scalping, I guess I do.
Yeah.
I guess I do. I hadn't thought about it that way.
I might say, hey, I'm going to lose 30 cents, but I just made 15. I'm taking it.
Yeah, I may do that. I'd have to think on that some more. Go back and look at it. For me, anything that's a loss, I have so many repair strategies that if I miss it and I still think that trade's valid, I'll pop in another strategy and turn that thing so I can get a little bit of profit out of it.
Yeah.
It may take me a little bit longer, but I'll get there.
And talk about evolution of your strategies, because that's got to be ever changing, as we've talked about earlier. You're always looking at new angles and new ways. How do you keep up with that?
Honestly, I haven't changed much in the last several years. 2007 and 2008, when the market started doing all this weird stuff, obviously I had to change some, as I call it, my recipes. That's the only recipes I have, by the way, because I can't cook. That's true.
You just had to turn the charts upside down. Instead of buying, you had to start selling.
There you go. So I had to change my recipes a little bit, but for the most part, I know who I'm up against. I know I'm up against institutions and other traders. Right. And until they change their habits, I can't see me changing a whole lot. I may learn some new strategies and I back test those or tweak the ones I have a little bit. But for the most part, the last 3 years, I'm pretty solid.
Yeah. But you've got enough in your stable that you're, it's not just one or two things that you're doing. You've got enough strategies that work in different markets. I think that's the one thing I think that traders learn is that, okay, that works in an up market, that works in a down market, and this works in a flat market. There's really only three types of markets.
But some of them still buy, hold, and hope, and I don't do that. Yeah. That's not a strategy.
Right. Do you? I'm curious. Do you have long-term accounts? What would you consider long-term? I mean, you're still trading a long-term account.
6 months to a year.
Yeah. So you've really segmented two types of trading accounts: longer, shorter, and shortest, yes. I guess. That type of thing. Yes. And so somebody that's looking to get into this business, what's the one takeaway you would give them? Because I do think trading can be defined in any time frame, no matter if you can be there all day or if you've got another job, you can trade longer term time frames. So what you and I trade and teach can really be broken down from a weekly, monthly, down to a minute chart. So there is a place for trading in everybody's portfolio?
I think there is. I right now, because like yourself, I deal with a lot of new traders. They try to become a day trader first when they should become solid in 1 to 4 strategies. Back test those, and once those work, move on. And I hear people say, well, I can't do this virtually. I use a simulator. Right. I still use one when I'm back testing a couple new strategies I want to do. But you can still buy something and position trade it, wait, hold it, or a longer term swing. But this is real dollars here, and I'm sorry, I don't have to throw real dollars to learn a strategy. Right. So I would highly suggest people practice before they put their hard-earned dollars after this.
Yeah, I agree. But there's still nothing like putting real money to risk.
Putting real money and starting small. To be honest with you, I do a lot of starter accounts. We start, believe it or not, $300 to $500.
Right.
We start those starter accounts and get people moving. My kids started one in February. $563. We hit 10K in May.
Wow, that's
and so it can be done. But again, little trades, you're still diversified, the whole thing. I trade that account now. Once it hit that much, I'm like, give it here. I better take it over. But we have.
And I think it's important to teach children, risk management also. I mean, do you play a lot of games with your children to enforce that? Card games, board games.
Absolutely. The card games, I think, are ideal. That was probably one of the first things. And I love teaching teenagers. We have a lot of teenagers and many young people. A lot of our traders have children, so we're starting to work with that group because they need to learn how to handle money. We don't teach that in the schools. So we do need to.
We do a terrible job of that. I agree. That's fantastic. I'd like to hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I spend a lot of time working with couples on financial counseling. So if I can trickle that down to the kids, then we've got it.
Well, Leigh, thanks so much for coming on. We can find you again at Cooper STL. And also www.bullsonwallstreet.com. Anything else you want to leave us with? Any words?
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And let me know when you're ready for the makeover.
Okay. I will take you up on it again. If I can look a tenth of what you look like, I got a chance.
Oh, honey, I can make it happen. Trust me. Trust me. You're on. That bet's on.
All right, Leigh. I will take you up.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Peace.